Hey everyone, summer is officially in full swing and things seem to be going great so far. Weather's great, no dramatic news stories thus far that have taken over the nation, and slowly but surely the world is back on track to being normal. Well, just America maybe, not the other countries, but uh, slowly but surely our country is coming back to normal. Pray for the rest of the world, but you know, we'll get there. The whole world will get there someday. So that's all very exciting. But what's more exciting than all of that is that there's a new podcast episode out today, and it is number 24. Yes, sir. We're one away from 25. Holy shit. Can't even believe I found 24 people that were down to do this, and I didn't have to bribe a single one of them. So thank you to all of you guys who have participated thus far. But as you guys know, this upcoming weekend is very, very special, and that is because it is Father's Day. So in honor of this holiday coming up this weekend, and with a lot of people celebrating their dads in various ways, I thought that I would release a podcast with my dad. And the essential question of mine and my dad's conversation was, what is the immigrant experience like? I think growing up as a South Asian, first generation Indian American, I feel like I in particular, I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like some of you, we're constantly worried about our own problems and fitting in with, school and home and all of these different things, that we never really bothered to ask our parents what their stories were. And that's what the purpose of this podcast was to be able to do that for you guys. And kind of record that conversation and let people see what that's like. And we never bothered to ask our parents, even though they moved to a new country around the time they were our age, and amongst various other things. So that's what I did on this episode. Me and my dad talk about kind of his whole journey in this country, from growing up in India through the 60s and the 70s to his first week in America to meeting my mom and his take on arranged marriage now, and the ways he connects to both Indian American culture as well as parenting. This episode is one I'm really proud of, and I'm genuinely excited for everybody to see it. Super personal to me. So if you guys could take some time to listen to it, it would be absolutely amazing. And let me know what you think. Like and comment on the YouTube video. Follow me on Spotify, DM me, whatever. Let me know what you think. But without further ado, I present to you my dad for the Father's Day episode 24. I hope you guys enjoy. Peace. Coming to you live from my parents' house, and I got another parent here with me. Episode 24 of the Essential Question podcast is officially live and going on here at the house, and me and my dad are recording this podcast. He's downstairs, I'm upstairs. You know the vibe. So, hello, Dad. How are you?
Hey, Anuj. It's a privilege to be on your show, dude.
Okay. You don't need to use dude, but
all right.
But how's it going? Even though I asked you this question.
It's going really good. I just finished my 5-mile run this morning, and I did my yoga and meditation. I'm feeling awesome.
Yeah, classic Indian uncle things, guys. He is.
There you go. Why is it an Indian uncle thing?
What? He finished his meditation and then he went on his run. He's feeling great.
Yes, absolutely.
Exquisite. We're unofficially sponsored by coconut water. It's great. Yeah, I'm trying to get them to sponsor me. So I'm trying to drink it during the episodes, make that money. But the essential question to detract from me trying to be funny is, and I thought I would talk about it since this week is Father's Day, and I thought it would be a nice episode to have headed into kind of the start of summer here. And the essential question that I have for my dad is, what is the immigrant experience like? Which is something that my dad can very well answer since he is an immigrant himself, for those of you that don't know. And I thought it would just be a good opportunity to kind of talk about that story a little bit, because I know for a lot of not only South Asian kids that listen to this, but just kids in general. I know a lot of kids have immigrant parents, but they don't really know their parents' stories. So I thought I would, shine some light and hopefully give my dad a platform to share his. So does that sound good to you, Dad?
Thank you, Anuj. I would love to do it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Um, so my first question to you is very simple. It's going to be kind of hard. I don't know. We'll see.
Uh-oh.
But describe yourself in 2 sentences without you mentioning me, like being my dad. Describe yourself in 2 sentences without mentioning being a father.
All right. So I'm basically an immigrant.
Okay, say your name. For those
I'm
who
Harsha. I'm Harsha Viswanath.
There you go.
Born in India. Born in Coorg, India, which is called the Scotland of India. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. Then did my education in Bangalore, in Karnataka, India again, and then came to this country in 1985 with 2 suitcases in hand, and then went to school in University of Arkansas, the beautiful Ozarks, graduated with a master's and PhD degree, and have been working ever since, paying for Anuj's college and things like that.
Ha ha, guys. So funny. Harsha's got a little sense of humor today. I see it. Okay. Yes, he does pay for my school, but all right.
Well, I did mention your name though.
There you go. You see, you already failed. Come on, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But yes, the point is my dad has had a crazy journey to get to this country, I think is what we were going for there. But he is also an engineer. You can check him out on LinkedIn. He's got 500 plus connects. He flexes that to me all the time. And yeah, he's highly educated. So good for him. But let's start from the very beginning of the Harsha origin story, right? So what was it like growing up in India? Talk about kind of the differences between Indian and, well, American culture, because I'm sure growing up in India in the 70s versus growing up in America in the 70s was very different. And kind of get into the differences between like your kids' generation, because you've raised 2 of us, and your generation.
Yeah, that's a great question. So growing up in India in the 60s and 70s was very, very different from how kids are brought up here. So, when we were growing up, it was basically, there was no screen, there was no electronics, no nothing, right? We were out on the streets, after school, after 4 o'clock, we were out till 7:38, playing games, playing cricket, flying kites, playing marbles, right? And come weekend, we used to go play cricket again, fly kites. And we used to actually, for kites, we used to actually make our own thread, or what we call the manja, on the stuff that goes on the thread, right? Stuff like that. I mean, it was really awesome to just be with friends and hang out, and then just have a good time. And I have a feeling that you guys do hang out with a lot of the kids, but this generation and the generation to come, I think, are losing out on that aspect of the connection, right? I mean, you guys do have that, but I'm starting to see that it's kind of getting lost.
For sure. I mean, you never taught me how to fly a kite, Dad. Come on now. What was that about?
The kites, the thing is, Anuj, the kites that we get here are very different from the ones that we got in India. So when I look at a kite here, I'm like, how does this even fly? Yeah.
Because what's ironic is a lot of them are made in India and China.
Yeah, they're kind of funnily shaped, and then I don't know how to even fly those kites. Yeah. I don't know how many of y'all have your audience has watched The Kite Runner.
All of them. I'm pretty sure a lot of them have read the book because we all read it our sophomore year. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the book, I read the book. It's an awesome book by Khalil, or what's his name? I forget his name.
Hosseini.
Hosseini, yeah. Thank you. I read a few other books of his as well. Awesome writer. But the point I was trying to make is Yeah, he talks about flying kites in Kabul, and that's the kind of story that I was grown up as a kid. I grew up with, right?
Yeah.
Flying kites, and then having flight kite competition with other kids. Making other kids kite to cut and things like that.
Hmm.
So that was those are fun times. And the other aspects, I think, is the differences are, I think we again, because of less electronics and less technology, there was more interaction with people, with families, get together, things like that, and it was more impromptu rather than everything being arranged, right? Dates here, everything, when kids have to get together, it's like play date and things like that. Back then it was all impromptu, right? It's like you just go ring the bell of somebody's house and then you go talk to them, or you just say hi to them, right? And things like that. So those are some of the big differences, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But I feel like, I don't know, I got a little bit of that, like growing up in the neighborhood that we used to, the old neighborhood. And I know we've talked about that before. I mean, that's what it used to feel like. Like we used to just kind of be out in the street all day, especially in the summer and stuff. But I do get what you're saying. Like, yeah, there's more screens and like TV and all that for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
technology helps, but we got to kind of limit it, and
Yeah.
then also have the other social interaction aspect as well.
Don't you find it kind of ironic that you're the one who's working on these technologies that make kids, that are causing the problems that are in our society today? Come on, Dad.
You bring up a great question. Yes, I always have to grapple with that. When I'm working on bleeding edge technology, whether it's Microsoft or Intel or Amazon. In the end, this is all going to be going to our kids, and how is this going to help society, right?
Yeah.
So you always have to. I'm grappling with that question. I think I've told you that
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, so you grew up obviously in Bangalore, hanging out in the street, playing all the time. So like when did the thought first hit your head like I want to like did you ever want to see like what was beyond Bangalore, what was beyond kind of your space in India? And did you kind of visualize yourself spending the rest of your life there? Or did you want to leave?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think growing up, I always played a lot of sports. I love sports. I never thought myself as being a professional, being working in a company, making technology or building technology and things like that. I always thought of myself as, playing sports until about, I think, the 10th grade or so, when things changed, and I started thinking more on my career and things like that. So I'm sorry, what was your question, Anuj?
Come on, Dad. Get with the program here.
I
No,
know.
I was just asking, like, when did you like when did you first think about like leaving India as like a
Okay.
possibility, or did you like ever want to leave India?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I started, when you're in engineering school, or even back then, before that, my dad used to, I think, grandpa used to work for, he's an engineer by profession. He worked for a German company in India. So he used to go to Germany pretty often. And so, I've always thought of, he was telling me about having maybe a summer program with some of his German colleagues there. So I kind of envisioned it before, in terms of going out of the country and things like that. But it really didn't happen till when I was in engineering school, right? When you start to get into engineering, all the kids there are like, okay, I'm going to start applying to the US colleges, the UK colleges, and things like that. So you also get into that groove, right? So all of my friends were applying, even I started applying. And of course, as a kid, you see movies there, all the American glamour, right? So you want to come to America, right? Land of
Yeah.
milk and honey. So
I
yeah,
mean, when you got like, what was your initial impression of America through like media? Like when you were in growing up, like what was it? What did you think like, oh, like all the women are great looking and like, California, super sunshine. Like what was the impression?
Yeah, I think growing up, that brings me to a funny story. So when we were, kids, we used to go watch westerns, right? That was our favorite pastime in the weekends. We used to go watch. This particular movie theater used to have western movies, and every weekend they used to get a new western movie. And so we used to go watch these crazy western movies like Clint Eastwood and all these guys, right?
Yeah.
Our heroes. And so that is all based in America.
Hmm.
And we thought already. I mean, we started thinking of the Wild West, and and of course the other movies as well, which were pretty interesting. The great city life, and of course all the good-looking women, of course, yeah. And
Yeah.
then it was just glamorous, right? You just, as a kid growing up, you want to be part of that.
Yeah, for sure. I guess like so you just kind of got the impression that it was like the place to be, so to speak, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Um,
And also, I think another thing was the 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 thing that attracted me was the way, the openness of the culture, right? In India, being in India, it's a little more, you have to stick to some rules. It's kind of
mhm.
more, um, what do you call? There's a lot of rules in the society, right?
Yeah.
But here in the Western society, it's a little open-minded, and it's more open to debate, and whereas in the Eastern culture, it's a little more closed, right? So I was attracted to that as well.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think this podcast would be that well received in India, considering some of the expletives that I've said on some episodes. But that being said, like, wh- when you first kind of like left home and you were like sitting on the airplane, with the
Mhm.
two suitcases, the classic story.
Yeah,
Uh, what was that emotion like? Like, what were you feeling? How did you feel? What was the vibe?
yeah. I mean, that feeling is the worst feeling. You're like, you're just your stomach just, you have this really, bad hole in your stomach kind of thing. It's like you just sink down in your seat and you're just sitting there. I'm like, where am I going? I don't even know anybody here. I have just two suitcases, and it's like, it's a, you're excited about going, but on the other hand, it's like, you're leaving everything behind and going, right? So
Yeah.
it's a kind of a depressing feeling as well.
Yeah. What was that like goodbye process like with your family? Was it just like, was it very like emotional? Like, what was it like? Because you're the oldest kid too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, everybody was there, my parents, my grandparents, the whole family was there to send me off, and, we're all in tears, and, it's even back then, right? I mean, we did not have cell phones, right?
Yeah.
And to make a call from America to India, it cost like, I think it cost like $5 an hour, a minute, right?
Hmm.
So for the first 6 months I came here, I made, I think, 3 or 4 phone calls.
Yeah.
I
So
think the first day or so I made a phone call, and then it's expensive, right?
right, right.
Yeah. So it's the all the communication with the family was through letters.
Yeah,
Everything was
yeah.
through letters.
I've seen some of those letters. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I think
yeah. I
you.
mean, for the first few days it was a horrible feeling, but or time heals everything, right? You may
Mhm.
start to make new friends here. You're starting to join your new university, college, all that stuff. You start to get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But when I came here, like I said, I didn't know anybody. I came to University of Arkansas, which was the small little university town.
hmm.
And I came in um, 10-seater aircraft. And I was the only passenger in the plane. And I land in this airport where there were two people in the airport. And so I had to call a cab, and the cab guy came like 45 minutes later. And
Yeah.
so you can start to imagine the whole picture, right? It's like, and then I went and checked myself in a motel, and
Mm-hmm.
so luckily the next day I met somebody that I looked kind of Indian, and back then you kind of are attracted to your own kind, Indians,
Yeah.
and then that's how you can forge a friendship at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He kind of came and picked me up, and he took me to the dormitory, checked me in, and then I made some friends there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was those were some challenging times. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Like, I mean, you mentioned you went to school in the South in Arkansas in the 1980s. A lot of brown
Mm-hmm.
people today would be very freaked out by that notion, considering the
Mm-hmm.
political climate.
Yeah.
I know your take on this. How did people treat you? Did you ever feel like a real outsider, going to such a, the deep South, so to speak? Like, what was it like being a brown man in the South, like in the 80s?
Yeah. Great question. So there's a big you know I don't know how to say it, but the people talk about the South being racist and things like that. So I really didn't feel that way when I was staying there. The people were generally very nice. We were living in a university town, right? So the atmosphere there was really nice. And so actually, to tell you the truth, the racism that I've experienced was more in California than in the deep South. People are generally nice to us, and they're welcoming. They're like, "Honey, how are you doing? Welcome." They're always sweet and nice to you. And of course, the question they ask you sometimes, they ask you, "So how long are you here for? And when are you going back?" Those kinds of questions, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess it's kind of logical because you're in a university town, right?
Right.
And they strike up a conversation with you, and they're like, "How are things going? You come here for an education. So when are you going back?" Maybe it's a logical question to ask, but for us, it's like, why are they asking us this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So yeah, I mean, generally, to answer your question, I think people are really sweet there.
Yeah. No, I
Always
mean,
are.
you've said nothing but nice things about Fateville,
Yeah,
and your time
yeah,
there. But like, obviously, you didn't really get to have Indian food. There wasn't a lot of Indian food in
yeah,
Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the
yeah,
1980s.
yeah.
Did you miss Indian food when you were in America, or did you not? And if you did miss it, how did you kind of replicate Indian food, so to speak?
Wow, that you're asking some really interesting questions. So when I first landed here, I was absolutely craving Indian food, right?
Yeah.
At any point, if somebody's an Indian food, I would run and I'll do anything, right? So because I was living in the dorm, and the
Yeah.
food that we were getting was all American food, and it's dorm food. And
Right.
the first place, I'm not used to eating American food, and in the second place, dorm food sucks, right?
Yeah.
It's a combination of that. And then another thing on top of it was that we had to eat at 5:30 in the evening. And
Right. Right.
so,
I know. Oh my. Yeah.
as like Indians growing up, right? We eat dinner at 8:39. And
Exactly.
at 5:30 we eat, and me and this other guy, he is another Indian guy, Malik is my friend. We used to eat our dinner, and we were like, "Man, we are hungry at 7:30. What do we do?" So finally, luckily we had a fridge there. So we used to stock up on our, groceries and things like that. We used to snack at 8:39 again.
Mhm.
Um, Again, this is non-Indian food, but we had friends, in apartments and places like that over there. So they used to invite us in the weekends. uh, for food, and we were like, man, this is awesome. I used to go there, but the deal was, we had to go there, we had to eat our food, and then we had to do the dishes for them. That is the deal.
Yeah.
So they used to put us to work, you know.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
there's
they got to
no
get
free
something
lunch.
out of it too. So,
Yeah, there's no free lunch. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Um, like, so you obviously, had the whole college dorm experience. You met a lot of interesting characters.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to tell a couple stories from some crazy shit that you went through? Some crazy people that you met?
Yeah. So the first day I landed, my roommate, he was this white dude, right? I knocked at the door, and this guy's like, "Come in," and I go in. He's like half naked, and he's has tattoos all over his body, and I'm like, I'm fresh off the boat, right? I walk in and I look at this guy, and I'm like, "Where the heck am I? Who is this? This guy, with tattoos and stuff like that." But he happened to be the sweetest guy. He was in the Marines, and he went all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
He sailed all over the world, and that's where he got all his tattoos, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, we started to talk that night, and then his name was John. Then he says, then I said, "I'm hungry, John," and then and then there's no food there. So I started to open my suitcase. My mom had given me some snacks like chakli and things like that,
Yeah.
Indian snacks. So I started to snack on them. And then I looked at John and I said, "Hey, John, would you like some?" He said, "Yeah, sure. Let me try some." So I gave him a few. He starts to eat them. And he's like, he really likes them, right?
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
"Wow, these are really great, man. Where'd you get them from?" I'm like, "Yeah, just my mom made them." And he's like, he started to eat more and more. And then finally, the next day he wakes up and he says, "Man, I had to run to the bathroom at least 5 to 10 times." Poor John,
Yeah.
But he was the sweetest guy. And when we were leaving, he gave me his army jacket, a Marine jacket. I still had it for a long time with his name on it and all that. He's really sweet.
That's awesome.
So that was my first encounter with a white dude.
Hey, at least it was positive, right? A lot of people have negative
absolutely.
encounters with white people.
No.
This is, it was good. Good.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, like that. There were many stories.
Yeah.
You'll take up many of your shows, I
Oh
think.
man.
So
Well, I'm sure the listeners would absolutely love to hear it, but we have to get through a bunch of your
yes,
life.
yes.
So this is still when my dad was a bachelor, right? So this was like, his time. But my dad, for those of you that don't know, was in an arranged marriage, or got into an arranged marriage with my
Yeah,
current mom, who's, downstairs somewhere. And so explain the process, right, to the average non-Indian person or non-knowing person about like the process of arranged marriage and kind of like how you went through that process. Because you were here in America at the time when your parents were
yeah,
like, "Hey, time for you to get married," type thing. So kind of
right.
explain the process.
Yeah, the process is, the parents kind of screen the girls first. It's more of a, well, I shouldn't use the word screen.
Okay, it's
So it's
fine.
more of a, it's more of a process of, the parents kind of reach out to their family friends, find out, who the eligible girls are,
And this is from the groom's perspective, right? Perspective.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
right. They scout for possible potential candidates, right?
People are gonna listen to this and be like, "What?"
No, potential girls, right?
Yeah.
This is all about matchmaking, right?
Yeah.
So like today we have online dating.
Right.
It's very similar to online dating, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a good
Where
way
you
to.
guys do
Yeah.
your swipe and swipe like this, swipe like that, right? Swipe forward, backward, upwards, downwards. I don't know what you.
Stop. Jeez. Upwards, downwards, rightwards, leftwards. I don't know.
Yeah. So, here it is, there was actual human interaction with the swiping, right?
Oh my.
So they kind of looked at the girl and, checked her background out and found out whether they were eligible girls or not, right? And then the groom would look at all, the picture or whatever, right? And then finally pick a few girls, and then you go and talk to them at their homes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess mom made the final cut, huh?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, good for her. So yeah, I mean, you kind of did. I think you did a good job of kind of equating it to online dating. That's it is kind of like that in some
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
except your whole family is involved.
Yeah. Well,
So
the whole family is involved because in India there's this notion of on this based on horoscope, right?
oh my.
They match horoscopes and things like that. So that's your first. That has to make the first cut as well, right?
Right, right. So, I guess your star
Yeah,
signs aligned, right? And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
um so like I think you flew back to India to meet some of these, potential matches as you
Correct.
explained. So what do you remember the first time you met mom?
Yeah, yeah. Of
What
course.
was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was, she of course looked beautiful. I talked to her for, you don't get to talk to them for more than 5 minutes, right?
Okay.
You
Yeah.
get to have a short conversation. And then there were other girls as well. I was talking to. There were about five other girls, right?
Yeah.
So, it's see, having just talked to the person, you're not sure, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah, mom is beautiful and all that, but you just talk, and then it's like, man, you can't make up your mind, by just talking, right?
Right.
So, it took me a while to decide, and then finally, went and had another conversation, and then
So you're
everything
saying like
seemed,
based on that 5-minute conversation, it's hard, so you needed to have more
yeah,
time. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
absolutely, right.
Yeah.
So basically, you
Um,
have to go, a few times, and then, and make sure that in your mind you're making the right decision.
right. So eventually you decided on mom, which is, good because I mean, I wouldn't be in the picture if that
Otherwise, you
didn't
wouldn't be there.
happen.
Right, right.
So good for you guys. So you and mom get married, but you actually go back to Arkansas, right? And she kind of stays back in India for a bit.
Yeah.
So you guys literally met for 5 days, right? Had maybe 4 conversations, got married, and then you said, all right, I got to go back to school. How did that whole thing work out? Like and the communication, like you were saying, is tough.
Yeah.
What the hell happened for however many months?
Well, I mean, we were separated for about a couple of months, not many.
Okay.
So, we used to write letters and things like that.
Yeah.
But she came here, I think we got married in August, and mom came to Arkansas in September, October, I think.
Okay.
September timeframe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
it wasn't too long.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously you guys used to just kind of write letters.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Yeah, we used
Interesting.
to make, phone calls also, but more letters.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, that's good. Um, so like I also ended up posting on my Instagram and mostly my Instagram because I didn't put it on Facebook because you're friends with me and you would have seen it. Um, so I ended up putting up like a poll for like the listeners to ask questions. I said like
Oh,
if you wanted to meet like or if you what questions would you ask your immigrant parents that you're too scared to ask them or something
mhm.
like that along those lines. And so we got quite a few responses. I was pretty surprised. So I got
Okay.
a few questions from that. So I'm not gonna say who said what because I'm pretty sure I want to keep it anonymous.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, some of these questions are also based on those listeners' responses as well. So
Okay.
this one is based on one of those listeners' responses. Um, what was your first week in the US like? Did it was it like a fever dream? Like, what was it like?
First week in the US was, I think I was in a daze.
Yeah.
That's what I was. And, because back in those days, when you travel, right? Today, I don't know how many people have traveled to India in your audience, but it takes roughly about 24 hours, right? And you
Right.
basically, at the most, you change one plane or something like that. And also the plane travel is pretty fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, I literally had to take a plane from Bangalore, then I went to Delhi, and then I had to stay overnight in Delhi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from Delhi, I basically, uh, by the way, I was I had two suitcases. One suitcase of mine was I had all my textbooks because people
Nerd.
had
Nerd.
warned. No, that's not the reason. The people had warned me that textbooks in America are very expensive.
They are. They are.
Yeah,
They still
so
are.
yeah, so I carried literally 50 books in my other suitcase.
Right.
So that was what my other suitcase was all about.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I get from Delhi, I get to I think um, Abu Dhabi or someplace, right? And have another 4 or 5 hour layover, and then from Abu Dhabi go to Dallas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. What am I saying? I missed another major stop. Abu Dhabi to to Europe in London, I think somewhere,
Oh
right?
man.
That was about 8 hours stop, and then from
Wow.
London to Dallas.
Jesus
That is a big
Christ.
ass, long ass journey. About it's 17, 18 hours back then, right? And
Yeah.
then I go to Dallas. So I spend another 6 hours in the airplane, in the airport there. And then I had to go from Dallas to eventually to Fayetteville, Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
Which is roughly about a 6 hour drive if you were to drive from
Right. Right. It's like
Dallas
here to
to.
LA or NorCal
Right.
to LA. Yeah.
But they routed me to another place called Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So I got from a 747 airplane to a smaller airplane, which had about 20 people from
Right.
Dallas to Fort Smith. And from Fort Smith to Fayetteville was another airplane, which was
Mm-hmm.
like a four-seater.
Right.
And I was the only passenger in the damn airplane, right?
Yeah.
So that was my journey all through.
Oh
So
man.
that took about roughly 2.5 days.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
And when I landed here, I'm like in a complete daze. I'm like, where the heck am I? You
Yeah.
know? And I go and meet John, who is half naked, and that didn't help much.
Oh man.
Oh my
Well,
God.
that was your first week in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Well,
2 days of the week. Two and a
two
half
days of the
days.
week. And then
Jeez.
first day I checked into a motel, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I remember the name of the motel. I distinctly remember the motel also. It's called Sands Motel on
Okay.
Highway 71 on in Arkansas, in Fayetteville.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm staying there, and I'm like hungry at about 7:38 in the evening.
Oh, great. Okay.
And then I'm like, look around, and then there is no food to eat. There's only these crazy looking. I've never seen vending machines before in my life,
No.
right? In
Yeah.
India, we never had vending machines,
Wow.
right?
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I look at this vending machine. I'm like, dude, there is food inside. How do I get to this? How do I get to the food? And then I see a coin slot. And then I'm like, I don't have any, quarters or anything like that. I have
Yeah.
only rupees, And then I talked to the guy in the front, and he gave me, out of pure, he looked at my plight and he gave me a couple of coins, and then he said, go try this, right? So I put those coins in. I think I got a bag of chips or something. I started to eat that. And then again, thanks to my mom, she had given me all this snacks. I opened those snacks up, and that was basically my dinner, right?
Yeah.
Man, I was hungry as hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
And the
So
next day, I started walking down from there towards the
okay.
university, right?
Yeah.
And I put my suitcases there. I did not touch it. I started walking down, and I'm walking down, and then I look at this guy who's also walking up, then Indian guy, like I was saying earlier, right?
Yeah.
His name is John as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then
A lot of
I
Johns.
introduced to a lot of Johns, yes.
Yeah.
And then I introduced myself, and then he said, "I'm the Friends of India president. I can help you out." I'm like, "Man, this is like awesome
Perfect.
meeting this guy, right?"
Yeah.
So he brings his big ass car later. He helps me out with my luggage. He checks me into the
Yeah.
dormitory and all that. That was super helpful.
Right. Right. Yeah. Quick story about the second John. So like my dad obviously was friends with him in college and stuff, and I think they lost touch, because that's just what happens with life. And this was like, gosh, this had to be like 10, 11 years ago. We were at Safeway in Saratoga, literally like right up the street from my house. We were at Safeway. We were buying groceries, and my dad just like his eyes just turn and he's like, "John?" And then this other guy looks up from his like cart and he's like, "Harsha?" And they have this like moment in the middle of the Safeway aisle where they just like reunited, and it was pretty
Yeah.
cool. I didn't understand the significance of it at the time, but of course, like now being, older, I mean, I get that it was crazy, like reuniting in a Safeway, which of all
Yeah,
places, right? Yeah.
I hadn't seen him in 20 years, I think,
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
But he lives in Saratoga.
Yeah, he lives somewhere around here, so
Yeah.
that's cool. Shout out to John if he listens to this.
Yeah.
Um, was it so you kind of mentioned you made a lot of Indian friends and stuff. Was it difficult to meet a lot of people in this country when you first got here, or did you kind of like fit in kind of immediately because you just had all these Indian people there?
Was it difficult? So at that point, I used to make friends. We used to make friends with a lot of Indians because that's who we were comfortable with,
Right.
right? So fortunately for us, we had at the university, we had a really good Indian community.
Mhm.
They were staying in a few apartments. They used to cook food and things like that, and they used to party as well. So
Yeah.
I love both, right?
Oh
So
man.
come Friday evenings, me and Malik, the other guy I
Yeah.
used to live
Okay,
with,
quick question. So like there's a lot of Indian parents around here, right? Who
Yeah.
encourage their kids not to party, become doctors, study.
Yeah.
Did all of them turn up back in the day? Like, be honest.
Well, yeah, I've seen them. It's a mixed bag,
Okay.
I've seen some guys who are kind of mellow, right?
Mhm.
So they kind of have a beer or so and then just kind of chill out. There's some guys don't even have a beer, right?
Yeah.
So they're more interested in just study, right?
Right.
Their intention is to first get through their year and a half, 2 years, graduate, get a job. Right?
Yeah.
So there are other people like me, who would love studying as well, but would like to have a good time as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so there's mixed bag. Yeah.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what was one thing I'm just curious about this. What was one thing you wanted to try in the US that like you were just craving in India that like you'd seen in a movie or TV show and you were like, I want to do that. Like I want to experience that, or I want to try that or do that.
Of course, the stuff that you see in movies is a lot of parties. I
Right.
love to go party. Yes, I should admit that.
Okay, there you go.
And I had seen a lot of people drinking keg out of kegs and things like that, right? We used to have keg parties.
Oh man, it's all coming out now.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
Man, there you
And
go.
then I'd seen a lot of sports in America, right?
Yeah.
I love sports, and then I used to go watch football games, Arkansas Razorbacks, right? Shout out to them.
Mhm.
We were great at basketball as well as football, and and every Thursday night, I think we had a pep rally in our Coliseum.
Yeah.
So I used to go hang out there, have a good time, the Coliseum.
Right.
So it was a mixture of both study as well as having a good time.
Yeah.
And that was the fun part. And then eventually I stayed over to not only just get my master's but my PhD as well.
For sure. Yeah. Um, did you so going back to like the arranged marriage stuff that we talked about a little earlier? I know I'm going a little all over the place, but bear with me.
Yeah.
Uh, overall, I mean, you're 30 years into an arranged marriage. You have been with mom for a while. What are your thoughts on the arranged marriage process? And is it something you would recommend your kids to do? Or do you, I mean, obviously Amog has gone on his own path. Do you want your kids to like find people on their own, or do you want them to go through the process? How do you feel about it 30 years later? And having seen
Yeah.
like other, some of our cousins go through it as well, or like relatives.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, I would definitely recommend, younger generation to find people on their own. But arranged marriages have their own merits, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about compatibility and meeting the right person. I think, we've been married for 30 years, and that speaks for it, right? And then, but for the next generation, certainly, I think, finding people on their own, I think, is what I recommend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, and this was another question someone asked. By the way, not all of these were questions that were asked by listeners, just that one, the first week. But here's
Yeah.
another one: is what do you consider America your home? And like, what is your relationship to this country, having lived here for a majority of your life? Or do you feel like, will you ever feel like America is your true home?
That's a great question. So yeah, I've actually grappled with that question a lot in my mind. So initially, when you come here, you're like, you're an outsider, right? You're always thinking of India, always relating what you do here with what you did in India, right? But it is over a period of time that you start to kind of think about not relating stuff back to India, but more so in the context of what's going on right here, right?
Yeah.
One perfect example is like, when you go and buy stuff from the store, you're always saying, hey, this is worth $100, but this is worth so much in India. You're always kind of
Right. You still do that today?
No. What I'm
Okay.
saying is that happens for some time, and then you lose that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the transition for me was when you have kids, right? Because the kids are born here. You guys were born here, obviously.
Yeah.
And then you basically are Americans, and you're thinking, you start to basically, as you're being educated in throughout school. We also go through that education process with you, right?
Yeah.
And we see things in the way you guys look at things, right? In terms of going through the whole school process, how you're educated. So basically, you put ourselves in your shoes, so to speak. And so our attitudes change quite a bit. I think I want to say it's a process that happens organically within you. You don't notice it, right?
For sure. So
It's not. I can't say that it happened at this point,
yeah.
but over the years it has happened, and now I'm at a point where, of course, this is my home, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at India, it's like, yeah, I mean, I loved India. I love India. Don't get me wrong. I was born there. My parents are still there. My relatives are there. But I think for what America has given me and my family, and what it has given you guys, and also how you start to think. My thought process is more American now than Indian. When I go back to India, I can't relate to a lot of the things that goes on there, but I can relate to everything that goes on here, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
In the same wavelength. So that's some of the differences, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, going off of that, like, what is something you think first generation kids, kids who are children of immigrants like me and Amog take for granted when it comes to your guys' experience?
Can you repeat that again?
Like, what is something that like first generation kids, like kids who, have immigrant parents like you guys, take for granted when it comes to your guys' experience?
Yeah. I think so. I think we always trying to tell you guys, right? The value of this, the value of family, the value of hard work, the value of not having technology and having connect yourself with not being tied to technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these things come from our upbringing back there in the old country, right? So I think you guys again. You guys can't relate to that because you have Amog has been there for 2 years, but you have hardly been there.
Yeah.
You guys can't relate to that. So that's what I think you guys take for granted because you can't see our perspective, right? Really. And I don't judge you for that, really. Judge you guys for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But being a parent, it's like you want your kids to kind of go back and look at it that way.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question that I had was, did you ever feel like a failure in this country? Did you ever think like you were going to fail when you got
No,
here?
absolutely no.
Never?
That is one thing that I never ever thought, because this country has so much to offer. This is an amazing country. If you have the fire in your gut, you can achieve anything in life, right? I mean, literally, the term land of milk and honey, I think is so appropriate for this country. Because the reason I say that is, having come from another country, a third world country, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just that the country has to offer you so much. It is just mind-boggling. So I've never considered if a failure hasn't come to my mind at all. And I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. That's very interesting that you were so adamant about that response. I was not expecting that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you had low points in this country.
One second, let me shut this door here. 1 second.
Yeah.
You guys are starting to work.
Yeah, we've been having construction, so it's a little loud. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've had like your fair share of low points in this country. Like, I'm sure.
So yeah, again, so those low points were when I graduated with my degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
We came to California, and that was the time during the first Gulf War. This was the time of the first President Bush.
Right.
I think 91, 92 timeframe,
mm-hmm.
When America invaded Kuwait. Or sorry, not America. Iraq invaded Kuwait, right?
Right.
And America went and, we waged war against them, right? And this was the time when there was a big recession in the country. And so that was the time I graduated and there were no jobs. And literally, I didn't have a job for 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
I came to California. I was staying with my cousin, Jagdish and Vijay.
Yeah.
And so grateful for them to put me up. But the first couple of months, I didn't have a job. Finally, I applied to Fry's Electronics.
Yeah. Recently shut down. Yeah.
I got employed there. I was the first PhD guy who is to
stock shelves,
be an associate.
Yeah.
What did they call us? Associate salespeople.
Okay.
We used to sell accessories to other people and we used to make commissions. So basically, long story short, I used to work 12-hour days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 6 days a week, and that was pretty hard. And I did it for 8 months, and I almost was at a point where I had to go back
Right.
Because my visa was expiring.
Mm-hmm.
And and there's a funny story there as well. I was when I was working, my roommate from Arkansas, his brother happened to come to the store, and he saw me there,
Yeah.
and he had a job opening in National Semiconductor, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm working. I'm trying to earn my living." And then he went and told my roommate. He said, "Man, I saw your friend in Fry's. He's working his butt off. He has a PhD, and I have a position open. I think he
Yeah.
would be perfect because he's just such a hard worker, and I'm sure he'll do good." And the next day he called me in and had an interview lined up. The next couple of days I had a job.
That's
So
crazy.
otherwise I had to go back, right?
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things I'm saying, right? I mean, if you have it in the fire in your stomach, you can make it happen in this country.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy that you never thought about failure even in that moment when you knew you were so
No,
close to going back. Never.
no,
Wow.
no.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
because
insane.
even I thought even if I lose the fries job, I can go work in a gas station,
Yeah. Yeah.
because in the end you make money, right?
Anything's
And
possible.
anything is possible.
Yeah. Damn. Look at that. And then the last topic I wanted to go over before we let this end is parenting.
Mhm.
Because that's like the
Uh-oh.
last kind of stage of your life. Yeah, I'm gonna grade you on being a parent all right now. No, I'm
Look
kidding.
how you turned out, Anuj.
I mean, is that a compliment? I'm confused.
Yes, it's a compliment. So
Okay.
that shows our parenting skills, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see. So you had kids, what, 4 years into you guys being married? 4 years? I tried to
Yeah.
do some math. 4 years? 4 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, what was having a Moog, your first child, like? And do you kind of remember your feelings when you first became a dad? What was that like?
Yeah, that is a tiring feeling. You go through 9 months of course I wasn't pregnant, but mom was pregnant, right?
Yeah.
But you have to go through a lot in that time period.
Right.
It's a lot of sleepless nights and things like that. And once the baby is out, it's like, although we had help, grandma and grandpa, they were there, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of sleepless nights. You have to work the next day, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of work. But it's a great feeling, having your firstborn, and going through that whole process. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I get that. I've never been through that. Yeah, hope to not for a long time.
Hopefully you won't be
Here's
going
to
through that for
that.
some time.
Woo.
Yeah.
But so you were tired. That was your feeling that you remember as being a dad? You were just tired.
I was ecstatic when I saw Moog for the first time. I still remember his head that popped out. It was like a cone shape.
Oh man.
And then after that it was luckily we had some really good friends, that had similar kids of the similar age group. We had celebrated lots of birthday parties, and growing up, Amog grew up with a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
So that was super helpful.
Yeah.
Having that, I think the community, right, is super helpful.
No, for sure. Community is definitely a big thing. So what was what have you learned from being a parent of two first generation Indian American kids? What have been some of the lessons you've learned from parenting us?
I think you guys drive us to the limits. I don't say that in a very in a funny way, but you do. I mean, in the sense that so there's a lot of preconceived notions that we have in our heads, but when you all these questions and challenges that you guys raise, right, while growing up, I mean, all those things go out the door. And then you have to reassess a lot of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so yeah, I mean, it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And each child is very different from the other. I mean, you are very different from Amog. And of course, you're a big challenge as well. So
Thanks. Appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment.
No, I mean, what I mean is, each is a very different animal. You know what I mean? In terms of the challenges that the kids pose.
Yeah.
And what they teach us as parents, right?
Okay. What did me and okay, we'll finish it with this. What did me and Amog teach you? Give 2 quick lessons.
What did you guys teach us? I think what you guys have taught me, I think, is not to be very judgmental, and then be patient. It's taught me a lot of patience, especially going through things like the academics with you, right? Right from your math test, the kinds of things we have gone through together. Going through that whole, it has taught me a lot of patience, and I also, it taught me, I think, to see from the other's perspective, to put yourself in the other person's shoes and see how that person feels, right?
Okay.
So because we are always looking at it from our perspective as parents, but to put yourself in the child's shoes and look at it from that angle is difficult, but it takes, you need to make that jump. And then once you make that jump, I think things become a lot more easier,
right?
For you to figure out why the child is acting like that, right?
For sure.
Right. So I think that I kind of started to do that. I mean, not initially I didn't do it, but it took me a while to get that going.
Yeah. And I know I've been interviewing you for an hour and a half, close to now. Crazy.
Was it an hour and a half? Wow.
I think it goes by. I'm telling you. This is what I'm saying. You guys complain about my episodes being hella long, but this was an hour and a half, and it just went by like this, right?
It's a great conversation.
But I know I've been interviewing you for a while. So do you have anything you want to ask me or tell me or say? Yeah.
So I've been watching you grow over the years. I think I've seen some really great things come out of you lately with all this. You have never been what do you call a person who does things what other people do. You know what I mean? It's like you're always thinking outside the box, and you want to do what is passionate, what you find very passionate. And I think I really appreciate that in you, and I want that to continue for you. And I have been watching your podcasts over, I haven't watched all your podcasts, but I try to watch them. And I really think you're doing a great job. And I wish you all the continued success in that.
I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reg.
Thank you for having me on. We'll probably talk about this downstairs in about 5 minutes anyway.
Yes.
But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with my dad. Let me know if you want to see more of him. He's very available. Doesn't really have much going on in his life. So, but yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Dad. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dad.
I really thought that conversation was a lot longer than it actually was. But honestly, though, I thought it was the perfect length, and I was really surprised with how much my dad actually opened up and shared his perspective with you guys. Obviously with Father's Day coming up, I thought this would be a really great day to celebrate my dad, and I thought he did a really great job on his debut podcast, even though he was a little bit self-conscious after the podcast. He talked to me and he had some stuff to say, but I thought he did great, and I think you guys will think that he did awesome as well. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below what you thought. If you're on YouTube, if you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, those links are down below. So feel free to go hit those links and hit the follow button on both. Go follow me on Spotify. Write me a review on Apple Podcasts. Apparently that's a thing. If you guys like my stuff. If you don't, then don't write me a review because that'll get me canceled. I'm just joking. But yes, back to my dad. I hope you guys honestly took something from my dad's experiences. He's obviously lived a very unique life, having immigrated to another country. It's a crazy experience, and there was also a lot of crazy stories that he told here on this podcast that I hope you guys enjoyed. And honestly, I think we don't hear enough about what the immigrant experience is like in the United States. There's so many different stories, and my dad's is just one of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, but I hope everyone listening has a very happy Father's Day, whether it be you being celebrated for being a dad by your kids or you celebrating your own fathers. I hope you guys go celebrate them, shower them with love, have fun, enjoy the Sunday, do whatever it is your dads love. I know that my dad has plans every Father's Day of stuff to do, so that's probably what we'll be doing on Sunday. But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you guys keep on listening. I'm telling you, there's going to be some other great stuff to come. This is just the beginning, and next episode is going to be episode 25, so I'm going to have to do something big, right? I'm going to have to do something a little big. But I hope you guys definitely enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, follow me on Spotify, follow me on social media to stay updated with the podcast. Do all that stuff. And hopefully you guys keep listening because, again, a lot more great content to come. So that's all I got. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great day. Peace.